Right, we're recording. Okay. So in today's episode of eComOne, I've got an amazing guest, Greg Gifford. Now, Greg is somebody that in the agency, when we're doing SEO, local SEO projects, and we are looking for that new angle, that new thing, or a bit of inspiration, Greg's somebody for the last sort of 5 years plus that we've been sort of all over in a sort of SEO way and looking at what Greg's been doing. I've seen Greg speak at various events throughout the UK. And Greg, as far as our agency is concerned, I'm concerned, is the #1 local SEO expert that's out there now. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Greg. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, happy to be here. Love doing podcasts.
Fantastic. So
I'm on a podcast, brother. Sorry.
No worries. So I think it would be great, first of all, if you want to just do a quick intro or an intro and introduce yourself and give us a little bit of a sort of history of your career, what brings us up to today.
Sure. So currently I'm the vice president of search at Search Lab. We're a boutique local SEO agency based out of Chicago.
Yeah.
But I have a varied history in digital. So I actually, way back in the day, just kind of self-taught myself with computers.
Yeah.
And then back when Flash first came out, I started playing around with making some Flash websites for a few friends. And I was a film major back in college. And so the way that Flash worked at the time, all the people that were designing Flash were trying to recreate static HTML, but it was timeline based, which made it more like editing movies, which having the film background made sense to me. So I made really, at the time, people thought they were cool. You look back on it now and you're like, oh my God, that's like the textbook example of what not to do with Flash. But I made really cool, bizarre sites because of approaching it from a different way. So then I started making a lot of Flash websites. Then I kind of combined forces with a guy that I had done a website for who was a commercial photographer, and we started a whole agency doing Flash websites and Flash hosting, and pretty quickly figured out that the Flash sites weren't showing up in Google. So we just figured out how to get them to show up, not knowing anything about SEO or what the rules were. It was super black hat, evil stuff that we did. So I actually started in SEO as an unknowing black hat.
Yeah.
And so then did that for a few years, and then things didn't go so well with that partnership. And so I ended up leaving and went and got a job as head Flash designer at an automotive software company, and kind of really quickly rose through the ranks to become, in charge of the marketing and doing all that. And then we wanted to start selling SEO as a service, but through the stuff that I had learned doing all of the evil Flash stuff. And just,
roughly when was this, when you started the sort of that transition from sort of geeking around doing the Flash stuff?
Pull up my LinkedIn to see. I mean, we're talking
10 years or a bit more?
Oh, like 13 years ago, probably 13, 14 years ago. So I started doing SEO once I was doing all the marketing stuff, like legitimate SEO, once I was doing all the marketing stuff. Then they wanted to start selling SEO as a service. So we started interviewing, and at the time we were like, gosh, I don't really find anybody in the area that knows as much about SEO as I feel like I know now. So the owner of the company said, why don't you pivot and go do the SEO department? So I started the SEO department there, grew that to a several $1 million department.
Yeah.
And then a lot of crazy, like, it would take me hours to describe, crazy stuff happened with that company. And so I left that company and went to work for another automotive company. And so that was Dealer On there, like the second or third largest website provider for car dealers in the US. And so they wanted to start selling SEO. So they came after me real heavily. And so I went there, worked there for 4 years, grew that to a multi-million-dollar revenue stream. Yeah. And then left that just about a year ago. And now I've ended up at Search Lab, and I wanted to get away from being stuck in one vertical. So now we serve lots of different verticals, and I can do lots more fun stuff. And
I think that's the thing.
That's where I am now.
People say specialize, but obviously local SEO and a few other things I'm sure that which we'll come to. But so you've spent a lot of years doing the motor and auto industry, a lot of car dealerships under your belt, literally hundreds, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And now, I know we talked briefly before we jumped on the call, but you're working with all sorts of companies now, like casinos, hotel chains, lots of
Yeah, and jewelers and attorneys, and it's just all over the board. So any local business, any business that needs to show up in that map pack, in a specific local area, that's who we work with now.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you for that, Greg. So obviously the eComOne podcast is very much around and focused on e-commerce and digital marketing and the ways that e-commerce stores can sort of help themselves to implement different things. And some people say to me, what's local SEO got to do with e-commerce, when local SEO is obviously a geographical location, whereas e-commerce potentially and usually is more on a broader geographical sort of radius or area. So what would you say to that?
So typically that's true, but I talk to a lot of e-commerce people that don't really get the opportunity of paying attention to local SEO.
Yeah.
And how local SEO works, because a lot of people, whatever it is that you're selling online, when you're just 100% e-commerce based, there is a local business, there is a local brick and mortar storefront that is selling the same products that you're selling.
Yeah.
So you want to compete against, especially over the last year or so, we've seen Google, call it, switch the intent of queries that used to, if you would type in a query, it used to be a full e-commerce query and that's it. Yep. And now it pulls up a map pack, and they're assigning local intent to a ton of search queries that used to be full e-com, and now it's local and then a little bit of e-com. So all those e-commerce guys out there are kind of struggling, because now, something like if you were to a year ago type in patio furniture, it's going to pull up just a bunch of e-commerce sites, and now it's going to pull up a map pack and show you where you can go get it locally, and then show you some e-commerce sites. So you've got to, if you're just in the e-commerce side of things, you've got to understand how that intent is switching within Google, so that you start paying attention. Okay, well, now this is being assigned local intent. I need to start doing some local SEO stuff to my site to get this to compete with those local businesses, so I can still get that business.
Okay, so maybe for the guys that are listening in, go and have a look at their key search terms that they're trying to rank for, the ones that drive the orders, the intent, and see if the map pack, put my teeth back in, map pack is showing. And obviously, if it's showing, you need to be in there.
Right. And even if not, sometimes when it's not, just for the keyword, let's use patio furniture again. Patio furniture, not a great example because it does show local intent, but let's say it doesn't show local intent. I'm selling widgets. You look for blue widgets, there's no local intent. But I, as a user, might search blue widgets Dallas or blue widgets London or wherever I am, which then does assign local intent because I'm adding a city name into it. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't necessarily be willing to buy it from an online option if that online option is presented to me. So in those cases, even still, if there's not necessarily local intent just for the keyword phrase, understand that it's likely, depending on what it is that you're selling, your potential customers could be searching with a city name attached, in which case, again, you want to make sure you're doing some local SEO, at least a little bit, for those major markets that you're in, so that you will show up and be able to compete when people do that.
Yeah, fantastic. So what would you say then to e-commerce stores right now that are looking to deliver additional sales quite quickly at the moment? Obviously, there's quite a lot of disruption, to say the least, out there at the moment. Obviously, COVID-19 sort of shut down a lot of localities and local stores pretty much worldwide right now. Obviously, when other people are listening to this podcast, things will be quite different, no doubt. Which way, we're not quite sure. But in terms of like e-commerce store, it could be, well, we don't really know, do we, at this stage? But we could still be sat here having another chat in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4. Well, we probably will be. But so e-commerce stores, there's quite obviously different verticals are going to be feeling different things right now. Some are going to be flying. Some are going to be, the opposite end of the spectrum. What sort of strategies and things could you recommend, or would you recommend, for sort of some fairly quick wins and things that e-commerce stores could do?
I mean, definitely you want to do some stuff around home delivery or online ordering. So, not necessarily around a particular product that you sell, but just to have that messaging on your site. Depending on what it is that you sell, if you're a smaller e-commerce site and you charge shipping, you may want to consider foregoing shipping for now, because if people are looking around for where to buy something and they've got multiple options and everybody's charging shipping and you're not, you're probably going to get it right now because a lot of people are out of work. So, any sort of sales, you don't want to be crass and be like, it's the COVID sale, because that's insensitive.
Yeah, and I am seeing that already. And I just think, guys, you are going to destroy your business. Well, it's too late. They've already done that. They think the people that are doing that, and I have seen some email campaigns and,
I've seen some really, really horrible email campaigns. A friend of mine forwarded me something the other day, and I threw up in my mouth a little bit. Like, it's just really.
I saw one.
They think that they're being witty, and it's just like, man, you're so insensitive. Like, thousands of people are dying, and you're making a joke out of it.
I saw free sanitizer with every order yesterday. Okay, so that local delivery, if that's possible, I think that's a fantastic one. If you can deliver locally, obviously that's a massive concern right now. People literally trying to get their things to their house. Amazon's famous for their very, very quick delivery, but obviously right now, even that next day delivery is like a 2-3 day delivery. I think UK is 2 day at the moment. I think there's the odd items that are 1 day, but no doubt that'll be 3, 4, 5 day in this next week potentially. So those firms can do their delivery, especially with fresh products. Fresh products, get that local delivery, get that.
Definitely have some sort of messaging on there about what you're doing, at your warehouse, as far as sanitation. How are your warehouse workers? Are they using hand sanitizer between every order, or are they washing their hands every 10 minutes or whatever it is? Because, there's the whole kind of just health scare of like, well, what if somebody at the warehouse that's doing the shipping has COVID, and then it gets on that cardboard and it lives on that cardboard, and who knows how long it lives. There's so much unknown right now, and so much fear mongering going around. Especially on social media, that anything that you can do to say, here's what we're doing because we care about your safety, that's going to go a really long way to help getting more sales.
Brilliant. Okay, so I think let's go straight into some of the local SEO side of things. So what do you believe, or what are, should I say, the biggest sort of ranking factors in SEO right now? What are you seeing in your agency?
Well, so with local, there's the whole proximity factor. So it's, especially within that map pack, you've got, when local, you've got the map pack, but then you have the standard organic results that are also localized. And within the map pack, proximity is a huge factor, how far away the search result is from the person doing the search. Reviews are a pretty big factor, but right now reviews have been turned off by Google. So that's kind of crazy. The reviews will still play into the algorithm right now, but there's nothing a business can do to work or to optimize that signal at this point in time. It's always, it really comes down to the same thing of SEO. It's content and links. So one thing in local is a lot of people that do local, it's a lot smaller scale. So when you're talking about these SMBs, it's not like giant e-commerce sites or giant brands that have thousands or hundreds of thousands of inbound links. A lot of times you've got small businesses that may just have links from 10 to 15 unique domains. So depending on the vertical or depending on the phrase that you're targeting, we've had massive success with clients through the years where maybe we only have to get 2 or 3 links in that area to just skyrocket somebody to the top of search results, because there's just nobody else in that area getting links. So links are really, really powerful in local, but it's content too. You got to have great content. You got to have good links. You got to have good reviews, and then you can't really do anything to optimize proximity, but links and content is really where it is.
So if you've not, obviously proximity is what it is. You are where you are, and the searcher is where they are, sort of thing. So that's a very difficult one. Well, it is what it is. But in terms of links, you're a local business. You're in a city, say anywhere in the world. What are the? It's a bit of a cheesy question, but do you want the local links within the local area, or is there like what?
So the local algorithm weights various factors differently than the traditional algorithm. So, the traditional algorithm is considering all the different factors, and there's some sort of a weight associated with each individual thing that it's looking at, and those weights are different when it comes to local SEO. So, traditional SEO for years, now there's the whole thing of, well, maybe no follow is just a directive and it's not necessarily a rule. But in local SEO, it's never mattered. We've been able to move the needle drastically with only no follow links. And I think that's just because of the fact, if you think about it, it makes sense though, because a local business, like I said, they may only have 10 to 15 links.
Yeah.
And if Google was going to say, we're just not going to count no follow links for any business, then you'd have a lot of local businesses that would count as having no inbound links. So local links, they have to count, but it's also important within that local algorithm that those links are from those local businesses, and there's not a lot of value there. And one of the things that I've always talked about at conferences for years is you have to think about link building differently, because the traditional link builders won't go after those low authority metrics. You might have a site that's got a domain authority or a trust flow of like 10. Yeah. And traditional link builders would run away from that and say, oh, that's going to get you penalized. But local SEOs are like, hell yeah, I'll take that link.
Yeah. And you would say, for years, take that link, yeah? You would.
Yeah. I mean, for years, I've called them shitty church links. Because you get a link from a church, it's super valuable because it's hyper local, and it's definitely that church is going to link to stuff in that community. It's a really valuable local link. But church websites traditionally are not that great. And if you run a church through, whatever link building tool you're using, it's going to have a very low authority metric. It doesn't mean it's a bad link. It's just Google weights those links differently. So, and the other thing too, is if you're going after all these high authority links, you have to do traditional link building. We're going to build some piece of content and do outreach and do all this crazy work, where with local links, a lot of times all you have to do is just ask the business what they already do in the community. So if they're involved in the community in any factor, then there's going to be these relationships with other local entities that are already in place that you can get links from very easily.
Yeah. So I think I love that term, shitty local church links. I think I can see the headline now. Fantastic. So local business, the links, obviously, we don't have to go after hundreds, obviously, depending on what city you're in. It's maybe a little bit, does literally a handful quite often can move the needle massively, is what we're saying. Some of those local links that a lot of maybe SEOs won't go after because they think they're just too low value. So you've got the sort of local area publications, directories, those types of places. Are they still got them? You're saying they still got the value as well? Yeah,
I mean, directories, not so much. That's what in local we call those citations. Yep. So that's anytime your business's name, address, and phone number are mentioned on any other site. And it used to be really important that all your citations matched and everything was consistent. And it was, almost down to the character years ago. Yep. Nowadays, those citations and directories don't really matter so much. There's a lot of really obscure local directories that back in the day were, you had to be on these directories. Now, you really only need to worry about any site that your potential customers might find your information on.
Yeah.
So what we typically suggest is to do a Google search for your business name.
Yeah.
And any site that shows up in the first 2 pages of search results, those are the only ones you really need to worry about that. Yep. Beyond that, citation consistency just doesn't really matter to the algorithm anymore.
Okay, good. So as links, content, what would be a couple of little strategies that local businesses could do content-wise?
So blogs are, a lot of people have kind of moved away from blogs. They'll go, oh, blogs aren't important anymore, but within local, blogs can be really powerful. For our clients, half the blog posts that we write don't really have anything to do with the business, and it's just useful information about the local area.
Yeah.
It helps you toss out a wider net. So, if you're a personal injury attorney and you're only writing content and putting content on your site that is about, car crash victims, motorcycle crash, dog bite, all the typical personal injury stuff, you're still throwing out a net that's targeting a really narrow portion of the local audience. You're only putting content out that's relevant for people that need your service right now. Or for an e-commerce side of things, you're only putting out content that is relevant for someone that is ready to buy your product right now. So if you just write helpful information about the local area, it throws a much wider net out and it gets you exposed to more people. And that's what it's all about. It's that exposure. You want people to know about you and know that you're there, so that when they do slip and fall or get a dog bite or get into a car crash, they already know about you. They've got that familiarity with your brand. And so it's more like it's old school brand building, like it was back in the day before digital came about. So it's that kind of thing. So the localized blog posts, and then it's not just, you know, shoving your city keyword throughout your text 15 times. There's no magical number, but it's writing truly localized content.
Yeah.
So the content on your site should really obviously be written, you know, if you're based in London, it should be content that shows you really are based in London. And it's not like you could grab your homepage content and throw it on a site that's based in New York. It wouldn't work, because there's too much there. Besides just the word London, there's too many other things there that clearly you're based in that local area. And that's really important to establish that local relevancy.
Okay. So you've created the pages, you've created these blog posts. What would you say about then taking those pages and sort of syndicating, putting them on social media? What's the benefit there in terms of, obviously I know we've got a benefit, you've got this sort of, the benefit of getting them in front of your audience on social media is one thing, but then what's the impact on your SEO, or is there any impact on your SEO by taking?
There's not really any impact from social with SEO. There was speculation for a few years that was going to become a massive signal, because, you know, links are easy to buy and links are easy to cheat, but social engagement is, you know, more realistic. It doesn't really do anything for SEO, though. Doesn't mean it's not a good idea. I mean, social channels are great, and, you know, Facebook traffic is off the charts right now with everybody being at home.
Yeah.
So if you can, you know, that'd be more of an advertising play on Facebook than just sharing it organically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, share your stuff on Facebook, because everybody's there right now.
It has its place, definitely, but it doesn't impact SEO, is what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. So, let's say you're a store that's multi-store. You've got maybe 10 locations. So within Google My Business, you can have multi-store sort of master account where you're logging into multiple locations. Is there any specific tips around managing a lot of stores? Because I know we've got a few people that will be listening to this that I know of that have got a lot of stores as one group of one company or a group of companies. Is there anything in terms of like being able to manage those locations a lot quicker within the back end of My Business, or any specific tips or tricks?
I mean,
locations.
Not necessarily for managing them quicker. If you get to where you've got hundreds or thousands of locations, that's where you might want to look at finding some sort of a management tool that lets you push out to a lot of locations from one spot. But, you know, if you're talking 10, 15 locations, it's not that hard to just log into each one.
Yeah.
They're all going to be in the one dashboard. But yeah, if there's anybody listening to this that does have GMB, and we're, you know, I don't know how quickly you're going to be posting this, but if we're still in the midst of all of the virus craziness, it's definitely important to get that messaging onto Google My Business. You know, there's a lot of things that aren't working. You know, the reviews are turned off right now. The Q&A section's turned off right now. But get that into your description. Make sure you've got great photos going. Make sure your hours are current. You know, definitely make sure that it's clear that you are open and running business as normal during this outbreak, so that everything, you know, continues to be okay.
So if their stores are closed, or let's say they've changed their opening hours, their delivery times have changed, so they need to go into the Google My Business, the GMB, and go in and update.
We've been suggesting using the holiday hours feature. So if you go into the dashboard and you click info on the left, and then you go in, and it's the standard place where you're entering business information. Underneath where you enter your standard business hours is a section to enter holiday hours. And that would be where, like, you know, Christmas Eve, you're closed early or whatever. That's what that's meant for. But you can also put in, you enter a date and say what your hours are. So it's better to use those holiday hours right now, because we don't know, because that way it's easier too. If you know that, hey, every Monday, I'm going to go into my 10 locations and set the hours for the week.
Yeah.
Because you go to your 10 locations and change all of the permanent hours, and, you know, 2-3 weeks from now, everything goes back to normal. Who knows how long it is, 10 weeks, whatever point it is. you know, you're going to have to remember to go and change those back. And if you forget, that might, so it might be easier right now, and that's what we're suggesting at least, is to just use the holiday hours. So we've been going into clients that have adjusted hours and just setting what the hours are for the next 2 weeks, and then giving ourselves a reminder.
So you enable, you adjust your holiday hours and enable the holiday hours as now, sort of thing.
Well, yeah, because basically when you go to set the holiday hours, you select a single date. So like you would select, what's Thursday, 26, 27, Monday is the 29th.
Yeah.
Right? Is it whatever? Let's say Monday's the 29th if it's not. You would go in and select March 29th, and here's what your hours. March 30th, here's your hours. April 1st, here's your hours. April 2nd, here's your hours. So you go set those up. So you're just setting it for a single day.
Yeah.
So then once that expires, it goes away. So that way, if you just go set the next 2 weeks up, you know, okay, cool, here's my hours for the next 2 weeks. And you just need to remember to come in and reset them. Whereas if you were to go the other route and just change your permanent hours, maybe you forget if it's, you know, who knows how long this is going to last, but if it happens to be 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks from now that you're coming back to standard business hours, at that point, you may forget to go back and change those. And so, you know.
So hours, obviously any messaging that you want to add in there, but you did say about the reviews. So Google have disabled the ability to give reviews. Is that right?
So if I am a customer and I go to leave a review, it will let me leave the review and it will appear to me that I have left that review, but that review is in limbo. It doesn't show up to the public. Same thing as a business owner, I could go in and respond to, you know, I wouldn't see that review, but let's say there was a review that was left last week before they turned reviews off and I'm just not on my game and I'm coming in now to respond to that review. I would see that my response is there because I'm logged into that account, but the public doesn't see that response.
So it's just literally
so there's a lot of confusion there because users think they're leaving a review and businesses think that they're leaving responses, but they're just stuck and they don't show up.
Just on hold, basically. You can reply. They can add a review, but nobody sees it. And then
we don't know if it's on hold. We don't know right now. We haven't we haven't heard a definitive answer that, you know, that customer review that's left that customer sees, does that show up when they turn things back on? Or that response that I've left as an owner that shows up to me but not to the public, does that then show up once things are turned back on? We don't really know at this point right now.
So have you heard any other sort of rumors or anything you've seen? Because that's I've never heard of that before. Obviously it's an unprecedented situation. Is there any other thing they may do that may change in this time period?
As of right now, I don't know. I think it's really unfortunate that they've turned off questions and answers. Obviously, it was probably getting overloaded with way too much stuff related to the virus, but I know there were a lot of forward-thinking businesses that were loading their own questions in of, you know, are you still open? What are your delivery hours? Are you doing delivery? Things like that. That was really helpful, and now that's gone. So that was one way to really get some information across. You can update your business description, but the description is so much further down in the panel that it doesn't have as much visibility. But yeah, I mean, Google's going around and marking businesses as temporarily closed right now. And sometimes they're marking businesses as closed that aren't closed. So it's important to pay attention to see if you get that, because then you can go back into your dashboard and say, hey, no, I'm open. I'm not temporarily closed.
So Google My Business, while we're on that for a minute. So obviously, you need an account, you need to claim it, you go in, you fill it all in. Is there anything within Google My Business, if we step outside this month or two that we're in, but on a normal trading day, and you've got your Google My Business, obviously you've got your photos, your descriptions, your short name, what are some things in there that sometimes gets missed, or some things in there that are the most important things? What are a couple of tips within Google My Business that you think might help?
Definitely the Q&A section is key lately. A lot of people think that the Q&A section is just a messaging platform where if I ask a question, that question goes to the business, but it's really a function of Google Maps. And so it's a community discussion feature. So anyone can ask a question about the business and anyone can answer that question for the business. So if you are a business that does have a GMB listing, once all this gets back to normal, you definitely should be monitoring your listing to see what questions come in and answering those questions, because when each question can get multiple answers. So when the business answers, it says it's answered by the business owner. And then if a question has multiple answers, the answer that shows as the primary answer is the one that has the most thumbs up. Yeah. So as a business, you want to monitor, make sure you're answering the questions, and then make sure you're upvoting your questions or your answers so that your answers show as the primary answers to questions. Another big important thing that gets overlooked is loading in really awesome pictures. Make sure that your pictures are high quality, professional shot images, and that you're changing them out often. You know, I did a Local U advance yesterday, and one of the questions was, well, should I remove pictures of products that I don't sell anymore? Well, heck yeah, you should, because why would you, you know, if you're an e-commerce site, would you have stuff on your site that you no longer sell, but you just keep it on the site? No, absolutely not. So why would you do that on Google My Business? Take it off Google My Business. And, you know, we've even got some businesses that will do seasonal photos. So if they're, you know, further north in the US, they'll load in pictures in the winter that show what their business outside of the business looks like when there's snow on the ground. And then in the summertime, they get rid of those and put in pictures that show what it looks like when it's nice and sunny. So, you know, the Google My Business for a lot of places, it's the first impression you're going to make with customers. So you want to make sure you've got great photos and all the right information, all the best stuff there to make a good first impression.
So probably the guys that are listening in, they need to go and Google their products or even their business name, get their Google My Business to come up as a potential customer view and look at how it looks. You know, quite often you see these grainy logos that have been dragged in from you know, the website or wherever from 5 years ago or whatever, and then no imagery, when clearly they've obviously got no doubt a lovely shop, location, warehouse, people, whatever it may be. So making sure the images are optimized. It's sort of the way you name the images and things like that. Is that relevant, or is that old school now? Or, you know, like the naming images?
You know, I should have paid attention yesterday. There was a whole session about this, and Joy Hawkins mentioned it, but I was answering an email at the time. I think there's a little, I mean, if you have a file name on an image and you upload that image, it retains that file name in Google.
Yeah.
So I mean, there might be a little bit there, but again, it's the kind of thing of all of the other hundreds of things that you can do with your website.
Yeah, it's a little thing.
It's not really going to matter that much. So best practice, sure, put the name in there, but I don't think you should expect too much out of it.
Yeah. Okay. So Q&A section is a big is one which I think, to be fair, I very rarely see. You know, in our agencies, we very rarely see people using it. You know, maybe 5% of our clients when they come to us have been using that. So I think that's a great one, Greg.
Well, and you can preload questions. A lot of people don't realize that is you don't have to wait for those questions to get asked. You can load your own questions in. So even if you look at your profile and no questions have been asked, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's not a good way to get information across the customer. So we call it a pre-site FAQ page, because with zero-click search, a lot of people aren't going to your website anymore. Yeah. So take the frequently asked questions if you have an FAQ page, or just talk to whoever's answering the phones or whoever's doing customer service and find out what the most common questions are. Load those questions into the Q&A section and then answer those questions. And now, again, better first impression. If somebody is first encountering your GMB and they see those questions and answers, maybe they've got a similar question. They don't have to ask now because that answer is already there.
I think that's what the guys that are listening in, that's a really simple but really not used tip. So thank you for that, Greg. That's really good. You know, literally, if you've got an FAQ page on your website, take that and literally copy and paste it with some amends, maybe make sure it's up to date. And straight away, you've got Q&A that's relevant to, and I think that's the same on the website as well. Obviously, making sure you've got those Q&As on the website as well. So you've got that sort of unique content around the services, products, locality. Right. So SEO wise, so you've been on this about 15 years, I think, ish. I think we're somewhere there. The unofficial.
If you count all of the unofficial evil Greg black hat stuff, yeah, probably about 15 years.
15, yeah. That's like, that's like 100 years in this game. It's like cat years. Yeah. I don't know if there's an equivalent of cat years or dog years and SEO years. Yeah. So a long time. Obviously, you've seen a lot of different things over the years. But I think, like you said about 15 minutes ago, links and content still, the sort of that links and content debate, or that links and content are still hugely, the two core areas. So where do you see things going? Where do you see, this next, maybe, obviously this next month's going to be a challenging time for a lot of businesses, but if we step outside that for a minute and think this next year, where do you think some of the SEO strategies will be going? Where do you think Google's going in terms of potential direction of
next year? Kind of up in the air, because who knows what's going on and how long this will last. And I think in the near future, Google's definitely making moves to look at real world entity signals as ranking factors. Just last fall, they got a patent for quality user visits, which is basically a patent for a system of using repeat visits to a location as a ranking factor. So if if businesses are more popular in the real world, they become more popular online.
Because
and they've been moving in this entity direction for a long time, but local SEO has always been entity based, because you can rank in local SEO without a website, which you can obviously, if you don't have a website, you're not showing up in traditional search results. But in local, you can show up, because all you really need is a Google My Business, because that shows you have a physical location.
That was a new one for me, literally. I saw that 2 weeks ago. We had a potential new client meet. We had a meeting with a potential new client, and we were looking at its competitors, and straight away, the number one competitor in the maps didn't have a website.
Yeah. So that entity signal, they've been looking at it for years. If you're out there and you're interested in reading about it, Dave Davies at Beanstalk does a lot of, he's been writing about entity stuff on search engine land for, I think since like 2015, for years. And he always at conferences talks about entity stuff. So, he's got a lot of information on it. But yeah, the patents, especially if you're looking on the local side of things, there's been a lot of, let's use these entity signals as ranking factors. And now it's even moved into like this new one with the quality visit score of real world signals that will affect how you're showing up online. And it makes sense, because Google is fully aware of the fact that it's pretty easy to cheat the link signal. You can buy links. Now they try really hard to figure out if they're purchased links or not, but people are going to continue to be intelligent about ways to buy links, or to, they've gotten pretty good at detecting PBNs, but there's still some out there that still work. And it's not sustainable. It won't last forever, but it works for now. There's always ways to kind of cheat the system, but it's going to be harder to do that in the real world if they're figuring out ways to use real world signals. And they're already doing it now, because they're tracking your location, whether it's an Android device or an Apple device that has Google Maps on it, because that's how they populate. If you look in Google My Business, it has a little graph that says, most popular time today.
Yeah, the time of day.
And you can see, is it busy now or not? Well, how do they know that unless they're just tracking your location? Which to us as marketers, we're like, okay, cool, no big deal. General public, they're like, holy shit, they're tracking my location, and they freak out, and it's all about privacy. But for me, I don't care. I'd rather they track my location, because then I get a better user experience, because I know when I need to go to the business, because there's no wait at that restaurant or whatever. I don't mind so much.
It so makes sense, doesn't it? If you're talking about local search, proximity being a key thing, if they can see that dozens, hundreds, thousands of people are going through that business, in and around that business, and sticking for a length of time in that area. It's scary stuff, but it's good. You can see that.
And then I'm interested to see what happens with augmented reality, because I know a lot of people are making a play there, and you've got Google Lens where, let's say I'm on a trip and I'm in London and I want to get some fish and chips, and I'm walking down the street and I see a couple of pubs next to each other, and I'm like, I wonder which one has better reviews for their fish and chips. And I just pick up my phone and do this, and I'm not conducting a search. I'm not typing anything into Google or speaking anything to Siri or to Google Assistant. I'm literally using the Google Lens, where it picks up and it's going to identify what those pubs are and show me their information and their reviews. So that's a whole different kind of approach to things, where now all you're doing is holding your camera up and looking at the real world based on where you are,
Yeah.
and getting information about that stuff without technically conducting a search query.
That's incredible.
What happens there? You know, I don't know. I think that's still fairly far away, but you know, we all know that, you know, they had the whole Google Glass thing that didn't work out because it was big and ugly and chunky, but they're working on that stuff, and they're working on the contacts that just, you know, it's just on your eye and you can get that. So, you know, we're getting into that kind of Star Trek biotech world that, you know, I don't think that stuff's a year away, but, you know, 10 years from now, who knows how things are going to work and what devices we'll be using.
Yeah, fantastic. So, slight tangent now. What's your thoughts on email marketing for e-commerce and local businesses?
You know, I think email marketing is still incredibly powerful if you do it right. Now, a lot of people aren't doing email marketing, but, you know, email marketing still works if you do it right. It's really powerful. You know, you get a great open rate still. You know, you can lead people directly to, you know, get them to click on something that takes them to your site, and then you're able to retarget them and do all the other things that you want to do. I mean, I'm a big fan of email.
Yeah. I think I've asked that question a few times, and obviously I've had a very similar answer. But the amount of stores that we see that just really aren't implementing anything. What would you?
Well, especially with e-commerce, because with e-commerce you've got somebody checking out. They're buying stuff on the site. They're checking out. They have to give an email address because they've got to get their digital receipt. So you've got more so than a business that doesn't do e-commerce and just deals with clients in the real world, customers in the real world, where you just kind of have to collect those email addresses to get permission. You're inherently getting that on e-commerce sites, and you do that on e-commerce, and there's your customer list. This isn't just like a car dealership where you've got a list of everybody that's bought a car from you in the last 10 years, and you can send out an email and hope that some of those people are ready to buy. Depending on what it is that you're selling on your e-commerce site, it might be something that people buy every couple of months every, you know, and you've got a list of these are people that already bought from you. This is a killer way to get these people to come back and buy more.
Yeah. Brilliant. So I've got to go back to SEO again. Obviously, you've got to make the most of it. So obviously you worked on a lot of different campaigns, a lot of car dealerships, jewelry stores, jewelry brands, hotel chains. Have you got one particular campaign? And I know it'd be difficult to maybe go into certain details because of confidentiality and whatnot, but what would be maybe some of the best results on one particular campaign, or a campaign that you can talk about, and some of the things that you did that really sort of moved the needle on that campaign and made it work?
I mean, we had a fun story. So this was several years ago. We had a car dealership that signed up for our service, and they had a page on their blog that had been done by a previous agency, and it was a VW dealership. And the page was just basically an informational page on the blog that was, here's what all of the various dashboard light means. That if you have a dashboard light, here's the meaning of that dashboard light, and most likely what sort of service you would need to get because of that dashboard light. But it was a massive JPEG image.
Yeah.
They had just had a designer create it, and they just uploaded the JPEG. So effectively to Google, it looked like a blank page.
Yeah.
So we said, hey, this is great information. So we chopped out just the dashboard image, or just the JPEG of whatever the dashboard light was, and then had text for what that was. And very quickly, it ranked like crazy. And I think at the best point, it was getting, first of all, it ranked worldwide. If you search for VW warning light or VW dashboard light, it ranked #1 all over the world.
Wow.
Now, it got a whole lot of traffic. I mean, I think at one point it was getting like 20,000 visits a month just to that page. And the dealer actually asked us to take the page down. And we said, wait, what? You want to take this page down that we created that's giving you tons of traffic? And he said, yeah, it's messing up my Google Analytics. And we said, well, wait, why is it messing up your Google Analytics? And he said, well, it's traffic that's not converting. And we're like, well, yeah, because it's not meant to convert. This isn't to buy a car. This is to provide information that would potentially drive service traffic to your business. And he's like, yeah, but it's getting like 20,000 visits, and it's stuff from the UK and from Spain and from France, and those guys aren't coming. And so we want to take it off. And we said, well, how about, first of all, let's look. And, you know, like 10% of the traffic is local traffic, which means that's 2,000 people a month in your local area that are seeing this page that are potential service customers. Who cares if there's another 18,000 that are international? He said, no, it messes up my analytics. And we said, okay, cool. How about we give you a filtered view of analytics that just doesn't look at this page. It cuts this page out, and then your analytics. No, because I want the default. And like kept fighting with us. Finally, the guy ended up leaving, not because of that, but the whole dealer group made a choice to go with a different provider for website and for everything. So they left us. And then as soon as he left, he took that page off of his blog. So we put it up on somebody else's blog, and it ranked well too. And then that guy ended up leaving, and I don't work there anymore, so I don't know what's going on. We have to go look. I don't know if that page still ranks or not. But yeah, I just thought that was crazy that we had a page that ranked that well worldwide, and they wanted us to take it down. But yeah, we've had other situations where, you know, the standard kind of answer to the question of, well, how long till I see results? You're usually saying, you know, the safe answer is 6 to 8 months. You'll see some uptick. But what you would count to be really good results, you're probably looking at 6 to 8 months of good SEO before you see that.
Yeah.
And then we've had clients that, you know, the second month we've doubled their traffic. So it just really depends on the vertical. You know, we've had some verticals where we come in and, you know, if it's a jewelry store in northern Indiana and none of the competitors are doing any SEO, you can come in and do just a little bit and it just skyrockets really quickly.
Yeah, so very depending on the locality, the competition. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, that's brilliant. So, where would you must have seen, I would say, a lot of horror stories or a lot of things over the circa 15 years with SEO. What would you say is one of the main things that people do wrong when it comes to their SEO strategy? What are some of those?
They don't do it at all.
Yeah.
No, mostly I would see just really bad content. The content just where you read it and it just doesn't sound like it was even written by a human because they're so worried about stuffing in keywords. You know, or just not enough of it. You know, a page where they've got a page on their website and it's 2 sentences. You know, oh, hang on one second. I'm homeschool going on downstairs.
Keep them going.
Answer.
Crack the whip. Yeah.
So yeah, just bad content. I see so much bad content.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't do link building. I think that's pretty big, especially within local. Just lots of people, especially within local, most SMBs out there don't have an agency that they're working with. They don't do SEO because maybe they know about it, maybe they don't. They just know they need to have a website. They know they need to have a GMB, but they're not really actively doing anything. And one of the most important things is link building. And there's so many, even businesses that know about SEO and do SEO. There's a lot of SEO agencies that don't do link building.
Yeah.
And it can make, you know, especially like I said, especially in these smaller, you know, SMB niches, it can make such a massive difference so quickly.
Yeah.
So
so they're either doing nothing, or they're doing crappy content, or they're doing no link building. So it sort of comes back to doing nothing or doing something badly. Pretty much. Yeah. Okay. So in terms of sort of training out there for the guys that are listening in and sort of resources, I know that you are literally around the world every other week. I think it seems, you know, when we jump on YouTube, we jump on the various big conferences. That's how I've got to know you over the years, and that my team have got to know you. And you're sort of, like I said at the beginning, our go-to resource for local SEO. A lot of different conferences, a lot of different training courses out there. What would you say some of the better sort of SEO trainings to the guys that are listening, and what are some of the better conferences that people can go to or listen to online?
Yeah, I love Brighton SEO. I've been going. I mean, this whole virus thing made them cancel the one next month. Yeah. So it breaks my streak, but I've been coming over to Brighton SEO twice a year for I think 6 years now. 5 years for sure, maybe 6. I love that conference. It's great. The whole SMX series is great. PubCon's awesome in the US.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed we were supposed to do PubCon in London this year because it's the 20-year anniversary, but with the virus thing, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Geez, what else is good out there? Ungagged. I like Ungagged a lot.
That's Vegas. Well, there's a few, isn't there?
They go all over. This year they're doing it in New York instead of in Vegas.
Yeah.
But they do one in London every year as well. What I like about that one is they've locked it down where it's an absolute maximum of 500 attendees. So there's a lot more of an opportunity for attendees to kind of mingle with the speakers and get to see the speakers on a one-on-one basis because it's just a smaller group. Where, you know, Brighton SEO, I think, was like 6,000 people last October. So it's just massive. And you may not even be able to talk to a speaker because there's just so many people there. And that's, you know, I think the biggest value from a conference isn't necessarily the sessions that you're sitting in. It's the conversations that you have with other attendees or especially with speakers at the pub that night.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's a lot of regional conferences too. You know, the little regional meetups. You know, like I know in the UK, Andrew Optimizey does his little Optimizey meetups. Those are great. You know, Dallas here, we have DFW SEM. So it's a once a month meeting where they fly in, you know, one of those top caliber speakers that you would see at SMX or PubCon or Brighton, they'll fly them in. So you just get that one person for an hour once a month. Those are really cool. Then you've got stuff like Engage in Portland is, you know, a smaller regional conference. We've got State of Search in Dallas, which is really good. So there's a lot of, there's a ton of opportunities out there if you really look. Yeah. And then, you know, I do a weekly video series called Local Search Tuesday. So it's quick 3 to 5 minute videos on the Search Lab website. And then I'm on the SEM Rush Academy. Yeah. So SEM Rush Academy puts out these educational videos where I was actually the first instructor they ever had. And so the first course I did is just the fundamentals of SEO, and it's a 4-hour long course. Yeah. And then once you're done with the course, you can go do a test and get a little certificate that says that you did it. Yeah. But now they've started doing shorter courses where those courses are like hour-long courses. So I've done, I did a keyword research, backlink management, mobile SEO, and something else. Oh, and local SEO. They're just about to release my local SEO course.
So course-wise, training-wise, SEM Rush, great resource. Lots of longer ones, but also those hour, and then you can test how well you've been listening, because you can do a little certificates, can't you, at the end of them. So SEM Rush, great resource, and I think they've got their own podcast, I think, as well, haven't they? And they've got the webinars.
Yeah, I've been on several podcasts and webinars for them. They're really big on providing free information, and podcasts and webinars, and you know, all the Academy courses are free. So they're great. They really want to help educate the community. And there's other trainings too. Moz has a great like guide to SEO, or you know, beginner's guide to SEO. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff out there.
I think they've made them all,
you know, if you look, there's plenty of information out there to learn these things.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. So last couple of questions, Greg. So with SEO and you know, the content, the links, the research, the local, there's a lot of different tools that are out there, a lot of different tools, and sort of I think each SEO has a similar tool stack. Quite a lot of tools I think are extremely popular across the sort of SEO industry. But what's your go-to tool set? You know, if you're working on a local SEO project, an SEO project, an e-commerce project for a local company, what's your go-to tool set?
We really love Places Scout. It's a really robust tool set for local SEO. So we love Places Scout. I'm a big fan of Stat Analytics for rank tracking. Yeah. Stat's really awesome. Bright Local and White Spark are also great local SEO tool sets that have some amazing stuff. So we use both of them. Obviously we use SEM Rush. Yeah. Majestic and Ahrefs for links are great. Yeah. I think that's pretty much what our stack is.
What do you use? Let's say we talked about content. You've got to write a content page on your local business. What tool do you use to sort of create that to analyze maybe the people that are ranking already on the content wise, or the pages are ranking already, to then decide what style, length of content that you need to create? Is there any tool specifically for sort of analyzing content and then giving you the ideal page needs to be a blog post and it needs to be this many keywords?
I don't necessarily buy into the whole, there's a certain,
or
keyword length.
I mean,
it's really more about looking at the intent of the search query and writing the best answer for the intent of that query. So just because you have a competitor who has a 1,500 word blog post doesn't mean that you have to write a 2,000 word blog post to outrank the guy. You could write a 1,000 word blog post or a 750 word blog post that answers the question better. So it's more about the quality of the content than the length of the content.
Research behind the content to know what intent and what to write about, which is more related.
Yeah, because maybe maybe it only takes the ideal, just for the sake of example, the perfect post to answer that specific phrase's intent is 800 words. But somebody writes 1,500 words because they think they need to write a longer post to rank for it. It's like you're in high school and you're trying to sound like you're a better writer than you are, and you just add a bunch of extra crap in there. You don't need that. It's write the best answer. And then write the best answer and get some links to it so that it's more relevant and more powerful, and that's what you do.
Fantastic. Right, final question, Greg.
All right.
You ready?
I don't know. It's almost like you're asking me that like it's going to be a curveball, and maybe I should strap in.
No, it's not. I promise. So I like to always finish on a book recommendation. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be SEO. It doesn't have to be. It can be anything. As a individual, what would be the book choice or a book choice that you would recommend, or what are your sort of favorite books right now?
There is an author called Peter V. Brett. And he wrote a series of 5 books called The Demon Cycle. I'm awful for book recommendations. I do not read business books whatsoever, or marketing books or management books. If I'm going to take the time to read, I read a lot. I read very fast. But if I'm going to read, I need to escape. So this series of books might be the best books I've ever read.
Wow.
Amazing. By far the best world building of anything. I got turned on to him by a guy at Dealeron that I worked with. And I started reading them, and I blew past where he was. And so I had to wait for him to catch up so that I just had somebody to talk about it with. So and the guy just released the last book like a year ago. So it's great, because I hate when it's like, Game of Thrones right now. I've been waiting for 10 years for the next book to come out. I burned through all the other ones. I started reading the series before the show came out, but then now you're waiting. We've all been waiting for if you're a person that's reading the books, you've been waiting for 10 years for that next book to come out. So, whatever. This one, so great. So good. And I read through the first 4 and then had to wait like a couple of months for the last book to come out, but the last book came out. And then now I actually heard a rumor that the guy's working on another series of 5 books that's set like in the future.
This is like your new Game of Thrones then. You see it right up.
Way better than Game of Thrones. Like,
wow.
Like, I can't tell hold on, I'll see what the first one is called. In the US it's called The Painted Man, but I don't remember I think in the UK in the UK it's The Painted Man. In the US it's The Warded Man. But it's man.
Okay.
So good.
That's going to go on the straight in the Amazon. I would say Prime. It'll be here in 3 weeks.
But they're massive books. So I used to do audiobooks. When I worked at the last gig, I had to drive to work every day. Now I work from home. But when I had to drive to work every day, I had a 30-minute commute there, 30-minute commute home. So I would do audiobooks. And so most audiobooks are, maybe 10, 12, 15 hours. I think the last one in this Demon Cycle was like 42 hours. Like, they're huge. huge.
Wow.
But they're so
Whole other
good.
level. Whole other level. So you're gonna have to wait probably another 6 years for the TV series, the Netflix, the Sky or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Greg. That's been amazing. So much value, so many tips, so many things there that the listeners can go away and implement. If the guys that are listening want to find out more about you, obviously we've mentioned a few of your sort of the resources, etc. But where's the best place to find out more about yourself and your agency?
It's searchlabdigital.com. Super easy. You know, you can find out more about me on Twitter. That's kind of my social platform of choice. I live tweet a lot of conferences when we have conferences going. It's just at Greg Gifford.
Yeah.
And then, you know, obviously you can email me. It's just Greg at SearchLab. And we just rebranded to SearchLab Digital. So it used to be SearchLab Chicago because somebody else has just searchlab.com. So email address is still, it's just Greg at searchlabchicago.com because we're getting those switched over this week.
And then you've got your weekly updates as well on there, haven't you? Which
so that's, if you go to searchlabdigital.com/blog, every Tuesday, those Tuesday videos come out, and those are typically short, you know, 3 to 5 minute videos, but every once in a while when I do have conferences, I'll like share my entire conference presentation. And I like to do, if you go back and look at past videos, at conferences, I will grab speakers and just get one quick tip from like 15 or 16 different speakers.
Your
so those are pretty cool too.
decks are a work of art.
Thanks.
They are literally like, it's like, oh my God. It is literally like, how do you do that? It's like, it's so
and crazy fact, I don't have any live text in PowerPoint because every slide is a JPEG that I create in Photoshop. So that I have 100% control over exactly how it looks.
Yeah,
because I'm a nerd like that.
You must spend a lot of time preparing for these obviously you're doing, you said you got 25 conferences planned.
I had 22 scheduled this year. I'm sure that there's more later this year that I know I would be doing. It's just they didn't, you know, they're not picking speakers for, you know, October, November yet. But I had 22 that I knew for sure that I would be speaking at. And then, you know, everything March, April, May, June has been canceled or postponed at this point. So who knows what that number is going to end up being. I'm sure I'll still do a bunch this fall because I'm sure, I mean, hopefully we're back to normal by this fall. So, you know, September, October conference season, I'll probably be on the road most of those 2 months.
Definitely, guys listening in, keep an eye on Greg's Twitter. You're going to see obviously all the presentations wherever they end up in terms of uploading them and live and YouTube and Brighton SEO eventually. I think they live stream quite a lot of stuff from there, a lot of the conferences as well, don't they?
If I end up on the main stage, Brighton SEO always live streams the main stage. So I was on the main stage last fall. It just depends. The way that they do it there is they kind of figure out which speakers go together to kind of make the best little trio for that particular time slot, and then they put it up to vote to kind of see which ones are the most popular. So, you know, if I make the main stage, I'll be on the live stream this fall. But
keep an eye on that. Well, thank you so much, Greg. I will see you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.